path of the human soul after death according to a secret U.S. military program. For the past 40 years, the United States government has secretly trained a select body of military personnel in the art of remote viewing, quote-unquote, the human psychic ability to perceive the thoughts and experiences of others through the power of the mind, what we would call a psychic contact session. Controlled remote viewing, CRV, since its introduction, was designed to provide access and communication with our subconscious, and the subconscious is a great reservoir of information, but we rarely allow it to work. By creating a connection between the conscious and the subconscious, we can then allow information from the subconscious to surface into the conscious so that it can be accurately interpreted and applied to practical matters. This practical application enables us to provide information not only about our own lives, but also about the lives of others. Controlled remote viewing, CRV, is a highly controlled set of physical mental protocols that allow a person to bring something hidden within to the subconscious on the surface and objectify it. The protocols not only take care of the processes of finding hidden thoughts and emotions, etc., and bringing them to the surface, but also the process of keeping them clean, quote-unquote, from the pollution, quote-unquote, of imagination and emotions, desires, fears, and other contagious substances that are closest to the surface of a person's consciousness, which tend to color them incorrectly. I don't know how that's possible, but anyway. A military psychic reveals, having served for over 10 years in this secret program, retired Sergeant and psychic Lynn Buchanan, who was selected for the first series of tests because of the special psychic abilities he demonstrated during the entrance selection tests, published in 2003, the entirety of his experience in the program in a book which you can see on Amazon titled The Seventh Sense, The Secrets of Remote Viewing as Told by a Psychic Spy for the U.S. Military. That's the title of it. The Seventh Sense, The Secret of Remote Viewing as Told by a Psychic Agent. The book in general has many references to isolated incidents of psychic military operations, which are of little interest. However, one section, page 177 to 179, refers to psychic experiences related to what the soul goes, where the soul goes after death. 4 basic paths of the soul after death. A. Paradise and heaven. Yes, and he does talk about hell, the shining black. So he does talk that he says that there is a paradise, but there's also a hell. A. Paradise heaven. This place has all the characteristics of the real world, except that everything was perfect. There is an atmosphere of absolute and wondrous bliss. The sky is the deepest and most beautiful blue. Every tree was perfectly formed. A perfect grass covered a perfect plain landscape, and there was an overwhelming sense of joy and happiness. I was never allowed to stay long in this place, but in essence, I was politely removed by an invisible force so that I could not see what happened. The person, the deceased, I was watching. Later, I was unable to reconnect with him. This led me to assume that after he passed into heaven, he stayed there. B. Hell, the shining black. Many people have passed through the experience of death and immediately found themselves in a place so dark that I can only describe it as a shining tan. The tan was so intense it had its own presence. There was always visible contact of a very dim and ominously threatening orange glow with no real shape or form, just an optical phenomenon. A closer look at the orange glow was always blocked by the presence of an anthropomorphic figure that waited expectantly for the deceased. I find it very difficult to adequately describe the experience, which never lasted more than 1/10 of a second. The whole experience of the place was a complete and utter horror. I never directly saw anything that would cause the horror, but quite suddenly I was overwhelmed by it. After such an encounter, fear and horror followed me home in my dreams and in my daily thoughts, and it was usually a week or more before I could make an effective projection again on any kind of target, quote unquote. I hated those goals. I've never been able to detox this experience. C. Forgotten disappearance. The third area where people went after death was no place at all. I was following the person through the death experience, and suddenly there was no person at all. I was able to constantly go back to the moment of their death and be in touch with them, but that was it. Then nothing, just nothing. There was no one there. I have made inquiries about these people, but never found one of them again. They simply ceased to exist. Note, there is always a possibility that these souls have completely exited the matrix and gone to another level of existence where there is no possibility of communication with mediums. This reminds us of Buddhist nirvana. D. Reincarnation. The person suddenly has different physical characteristics, different environment, different life situations, etc., but there was a very strange and unexpected view of this type of afterlife. Each of them suddenly became a child of about 12 or 13 years old. One of them still had the awareness and memories of his former self and was confused. I remember that this man was some political leader in a previous life, and at the moment of death, he suddenly found himself standing outside in the front yard of a modern American suburban-style house. He found himself wearing cowboy clothes. He was standing in front of a house with his new parents looking at him, smiling. He didn't know these people. He looked to his right and saw a younger sister. When he realized what had happened, he accepted the new situation, and I lost contact with him. So I had accompanied him as he became a new man, end quote. Buchanan also said that he also encountered cases of the dead reincarnated in past times. In fact, he saw a man who suddenly appeared in another life dressed in clothes and doing some things in an era that he later recognized as Minoan Proto-Greek. These revelations raise more questions than answers and are really quite impressive, if somewhat predictable in their general features. The field is free for reflection, so good luck. And this was from a Greek article I've translated for you. And as we know from our Christian faith, there is no reincarnation. It's just one life. And from then on, it's the judge that will judge us according to our own actions. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support, and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.